looking for escapism, I just want to escape.
Welcome back to my disembodied voice. Well, it's time for part 2 of our deeper dive into the darkened and thalassic realms of narcissistic personality disorder, and in today's video we are going to look at the structural domains of this personality disorder. Now, for context and continuation of understanding, our characters are not going to change from part 1, so, as in the first part, our antagonists of analysis will be Rose Armitage from Get Out, the Joker from The Dark Knight, Alice Morgan from the TV series Luther, and Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter. Now, I'm not going to go over the diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder again, as that's in part 1, and I urge you to check it out for more context before you watch this one, so if you haven't seen it, go watch now. So, instead, we will quickly go through narcissistic personality disorder again, and after explaining what the structural domains are, we will make a start and look at how the hard drives and foundations of the structural domains work and affect the vicious circles of functioning of which is narcissistic personality disorder. Anyway, let's crack on. So, as discussed in the first part, narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others, but behind this mask of extreme confidence, they are not sure of their self-worth and are easily upset by the slightest criticism. And, according to the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual Volume 5, narcissistic personality disorder is defined as comprising of a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behaviour, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by the presence of at least 5 of the following 9 criteria. Number 1. A grandiose sense of self-importance. Number 2, a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Number 3, a sense of entitlement. Number 4, a belief that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high-status people or institutions. Number 5, a need for excessive admiration. Number 6, interpersonally exploitive behaviour. Number 7, a lack of empathy. Number 8, envy of others or a belief that others are envious of him or her. And number 9, a demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviours or attitudes which are pathological. Now, in the last video, we talked about the functional domains of narcissistic personality disorder and how these affected our movie and TV characters. In layman's terms, the functional domains are how people express themselves, interact with others, process cognition, and how their defense mechanisms react when the personality is under threat. However, when we come to the structural domains, we're talking about a completely different modus operandi and a completely different set of systems. Like I've said before, this is the foundations, the structure, the hardware support of personality. So, structural domains are a deeper set of templates embedded within the personality, and they provide a platform for the functional domains we explored in part 1. The structural domains are not as observable, therefore they are mostly accessible to others based only on inference and the person's self-report. And the structural domains of personality are as follows. Self-image. Sameness or difference of an individual as compared to others, and the person's reflection of self as an object. Concept of the self provides a stable anchor. Intrapsychic content, formerly known as object representations. This is the person's general expectations of others as imprinted from an early experience. Intrapsychic architecture, formerly known as morphologic organization. This is the organizing structure of the psyche. This inner architecture gives insight to the strength and cohesion of a personality. This, together with content and dynamics, represent intrapsychic aspects of the personality. mood and temperament. This domain ties the body's physical substrates to the working of the psyche. This includes neuropsychological functioning, general energy and affect characteristics, and physical health effects on mental health functioning. This domain alone represents the biophysical aspects of personality. And as ever, when we discuss personality disorder in movie characters, it's important to remember Theodore Millen's quote and description of what personality disorders are. So, for reference, personality disorders should not be understood as mental illness, but as styles of behaviour, cognition, and emotion that imply inflexibility, which limits the acquisition of new behaviours, and difficulties to handle stressful situations, besides promoting vicious circles of functioning. So, for narcissistic personality disorder, we are talking about a pervasive style and pattern of characteristics which isn't about being mentally ill, but more about a rigid style of functioning, which means our antagonists are limited and somewhat predictable because their psychodynamics, experiences, and environments have created them to be this way and to function in this way. Okay, so let's start with the first structural domain, which is self-image, sameness or difference of an individual as compared to others, and the person's reflection of sense of self as an object. The concept of the self provides a stable anchor. And for the narcissist, their self-image subtype is admirable. But what does admirable mean in context of self-image? Admirable believes he or she to be meritorious, special, and unique, deserving of great admiration, and acts in a grandiose and self-assured manner, often without commensurate achievements. They have a high self-worth, despite being seen by others as egoistic, inconsiderate, and arrogant. And for this first section, we're going to return to our old friend Alice Morgan from the TV show Luther. Now, as discussed in part 1, Alice Morgan is a malignant narcissist. She has overachieved in life, been put on a pedestal by her parents as some kind of prize product, which many narcissistic parents do to their children, and she had to survive in adult environments such as university when she was as young as 13 due to her academic gifts. And part of the reason Alice killed her parents, apart from despising them, was to cement her brilliance as someone so important and so brilliant that even the police wouldn't be able to catch her. From the earliest of ages, therefore, Alice has been programmed to excel and be famous for who she is. So, therefore, her ego is based purely on her successes, and, as she even says to Luther when he is moving on from her case, "If I thought you were losing interest in me, I'd be inconsolable." Yes, it's said with sarcasm and malice, but for Alice, excuse the rhyme, this is the programming since youth. She is a standout overachiever and top of every class, centre of attention, and even went to Oxford University at just 13 years old due to her brilliance. A renowned physicist, ironically the only thing Alice admires in the entire universe is a black hole due to its ability to crush everything including light from existence, she is the perfect prodigy of parents who have no idea the programming they are instilling in their little genius. For Alice, who would have had to mature significantly quickly at university whilst being seen by everyone else as a 13-year-old freak of nature, she compensated for any doubt of uncertainty by continuously excelling as the only thing which anchors herself within some kind of solidity is constant recognition. Even shooting her parents is about excelling. She makes sure all forensic evidence is destroyed, provides an implausible timeline, and paints herself as an enigma which will forever be discussed. For Alice, whose self-image is built from narcissism and reliant on continuous narcissistic supply, she is never going to stop needing attention, so killing the ones who immortalized her as their perfect and special child, she takes on and beats an entire police force in terms of escaping jail for a crime which they knew she committed but have no hope of proving. And, as I mentioned narcissistic supply a few moments ago, let me clarify the definition of narcissistic supply. Narcissistic supply, a form of psychological addiction where the narcissist requires and even demands limitless special treatment, admiration, importance, or validation to feed their sense of entitlement and self-centeredness. Narcissistic supply is how individuals with narcissistic personality disorder cope with the world, and make it a place for themselves to thrive in. So for Alice, the only way she can maintain the maladaptive self-image which she has built herself upon is to keep getting more and more narcissistic supply, and so this is why she kills her parents and then attaches to Luther, because not only is Idris Elba damn hot, but he is another intellectual she can continuously wear down by interfering in his life and proving that, although Luther's very clever, she is much more cleverer than he is. Look at the episode in Series 1 where Luther suddenly goes, "Okay, Alice, you're cleverer than me." It's everything she wants to hear. A narcissistic villain should be congruent, and for Alice, she never relents in all 3 series she shines in. Sorry, I'm not counting her appearance in the awful Series 5. Her arc ended perfectly on that bridge in Series 3 for me, and her entire circling of Luther in Series 1 like a narcissistic great white shark is because her self-image is programmed to need more and more attention and celebration of her brilliance. Okay, so let's move on to intrapsychic content. Intrapsychic content, formerly known as object representations. This is the person's general expectations of others as imprinted from early experience. And for the narcissist, their intrapsychic content is contrived. But what does contrived mean in relation to intrapsychic content? Contrived. Internalized representations are composed far more than usual of illusory and changing memories of past relationships. Unacceptable drives and conflicts are readily refashioned as the need arises, as others are often simulated pretentiousness. And what better person to use for this than the antagonist, who was made up of conflicting stories, broken memories, and refashioned conflicts, than the Joker from The Dark Knight. Now, I know that multiple choice backstory is not exactly from The Dark Knight, and it comes from Alan Moore's comic book The Killing Joke, where the Joker says, "If I were to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice, but we're doing The Dark Knight as a movie, so we're taking The Dark Knight." But I think the Killing Joke comic influenced Chris Nolan for The Dark Knight's Joker, as he continuously rehashes his backstory into how he got his scars. More so than that is the fact that the Joker's entire object relations and intrapsychic content is all about change. Be it to whatever situation benefits him or who he decides to torment next, the Joker steals from the mob, then aligns with the mob, then baits Batman, then betrays the mob, then stops Batman from being demasked, then sides with Batman, then draws Batman into a new game, then praises Batman, then threatens Batman. All of this because his internal structure is so nebulous, and it's just so much fun to cause chaos. The Joker's also partial to a bit of narcissistic supply. He loves to see his face, loves to see all his work everywhere. He wants to leave a legacy, and that's partly why he loves Batman, because Batman is going to push him into more and more atrocities. However, part of the reason for this is more than likely some grains of truth in his multiple choice backstories. Whether it was an alcoholic father, sad wife, military background, or even just sheer insanity, the Joker would have had a life of being betrayed and relationships of chaos. And to ensure that he maintained an admirable self-image, well, at least in his own eyes, one way was to have contrived expectations of those who broke the rules and either betrayed or mutilated him. The Joker's scars are what made him, and he accentuates these with makeup and deliberate theatre to stand out. Why hide and be ashamed when these scars can be a thing of beauty and a symbol of insanity? However, as all he does is bait, betray, change the rules, usurp, and then repeat this cycle on his ascendancy, he states he lives for Batman as Batman is his polar opposite, but given time would more than likely get bored with Batman and change the dynamic again. The only way the Joker can view the pawns through his narcissistic lens is as pawns who can be manipulated, tormented, and toyed with because he has no loyalty, is incapable of love or a moral code, and as his intrapsychic content has formed from a young age, he more than likely lived in chaos, so carries this as an imprint. Let's say his father did cut his face. Well, the one who loved him and he trusted hurt him both physically and emotionally, so in turn, the Joker now sees the world through that experiential lens. The expectation of others is not to be trusted, to be bettered, and to generally rise above before they destroy you. And, because he plays with people's trust, the narcissistic Joker knows that the mistakes he made when young will be made by those who follow the rules and social compliances of their own naive expectations. Basically, the Joker will rise to the top because, like all narcissists, he plays with people, but for him, he has the upper hand in his expectations of just how worthless people can be. Okay, so let's look at intrapsychic architecture, formerly known as morphologic organization. This is the organizing structures of the psyche. This inner architecture gives insight to the strength and cohesion of a personality. This, together with content and dynamics, represents intrapsychic aspects of the personality. And for the narcissist, their intrapsychic architecture is spurious. But in terms of intrapsychic architecture, what does spurious mean? Spurious, morphological structures, underlying coping and defensive strategies tend to be flimsy and transparent. They appear to be more substantial and dynamically orchestrated than they are in fact, regulating impulses only marginally, channeling needs with minimal restraint, and creating an inner world in which conflicts are dismissed, failures are quickly redeemed, and self-pride is effortlessly reasserted. And for this one, we're going to return to the old noseless Lord Voldemort from the Harry Potter series. For Voldemort, he is confronted daily with a narcissist's worst nightmare: failure. His physical form was once destroyed when he was beaten by a baby. Now, I'm not a massive Harry Potter lover, although I have seen all the films, but one thing I will say about Voldemort is he's not always backing up his braggadocio with flimsy narcissistic projection. He truly is a powerful wizard. However, considering the most powerful wizard of all time was beaten by a child, and repeatedly beaten by a child, it's a bit of a sticky wicket for him to see his potential reign and wizarding domination ruined by an inferior being. And it's important to remember that the most crushing thing for a narcissistic personality disorder is to see themselves as inferior and not be able to change it. So, for he who will not be nosed, I mean named, he has all this power, all these plans, and an almost eugenic philosophy of expunging half-blood so he can make a pure race of perfect wizards. However, as he is being held back by the chosen one, his pride requires continuous propping up, and this is why his schemes and determination, which are admirable but foolish, are contained within the spurious intrapsychic domain. Basically, Voldemort will never accept Potter's triumph, and, repeatedly putting himself in situations where he fails, much like I stated Wile E. Coyote chasing Roadrunner in the first video, meep meep, his conflicts over Potter being superior are dismissed, and he simply reverts to the same broken coping mechanisms. Voldemort's intrapsychic mechanisms, intrapsychic meaning impulses, ideas, conflicts, or other psychological phenomena that arise or occur within the psyche of the mind, lack reflection, so are always doomed to fail. The same can be said for his grand massacre and plans to rule the wizarding world. Far from being some grand philosophy, Voldemort is all about self-hatred, projection, and denial. You see, Voldemort's father wasn't pureblood, and so he was seen as the weakest link in the family. So, despite wanting this world of purebloods and acclimatization to power for the strong whilst the weak will be purged, all his mechanisms, restraint, and intrapsychic workings are all just poorly regulated impulses of self-hate and inferiority that he himself is not a pureblood. More to the point, as the narcissist has no real self-defense mechanisms other than rationalizing that they are amazing and they need constant gratification to remind them that they are amazing, Voldemort's intrapsychic structures and self-cohesions are all fake, all fail him, and, well, it's all just spurious psychological hardware. Voldemort wants purity, but he himself is not pure. Therefore, his entire self-concept and philosophy is fake and destined to collapse, regardless of Potter besting him time and time again. Facing the world as an inferior being is bad enough, but his intrapsychic mechanisms are never going to untangle, and his inner methods of keeping his self-concept glued together by pride and triumph is all he has to go on. Therefore, he's going to keep failing by that very nuance of his own failure. Voldemort is a failure, doesn't like himself, cannot look at himself properly, so he tries to better that by winning, but a baby beats him, then a child beats him. Therefore, he keeps trying to get over failure by not failing, but keeps failing. He is literally stuck in a personality disorder loop of vicious circles of functioning. Finally, we come to mood and temperament, which is mood and temperament. This domain ties the body's physical substrates to the workings of the psyche. This includes neuropsychological functioning, general energy and affect characteristics, and physical health effects on mental functioning. This domain alone represents the biophysical aspects of the personality. And for the narcissist, their mood and temperament is insouciant. But in terms of mood and temperament, what does insouciant mean? Insouciant manifests an air of nonchalance, imperturbability, and feigned tranquility, appears coolly unimpressionable or buoyantly optimistic, except when narcissistic confidence is shaken, at which time either rage, shame, or emptiness is briefly displayed. And so we finish with the best femme fatale of recent times, Rose Armitage from Get Out. Rose is the master of insouciance, and she does this right from the start of the film. For her, she has to play many parts in life, but to keep letting men inside her, both emotionally and physically, she needs a degree of insouciance because although all of the sex she experiences, and remember narcissists don't have sex, they masturbate themselves with another human partner, and all the attention fuels her functional domains, to be this person, to be this absolute narcissist who leads young black men to their demise, she needs to have an element of whatever about her personality. Just watch her dismiss everything from her dad's jokes to the atmosphere in the house to Chris's concerns with little more than a shrug and a raised eyebrow. And when Chris finally uncovers the truth and she stands on the stairs only to drop her charade, see the true Rose come out as she quite literally shrugs her "Sorry, babe," knowing that he is now to be prepped for surgery and she has won another trophy. Rose is icy cool at all times, and she doesn't drop a stitch when sewing her plan, which involves seducing Chris, gaslighting his concerns, flanneling his worries, and then dropping him like a hot potato once everything is in place. Her whole personality is Machiavellian, scheming, self-adulating, but as this part of the structural domains deals with biophysical as well as her narcissistic demeanour, look at how she literally changes her clothes and posture like a chameleon changes their skin colour upon being found out and reverting to true form of the narcissistic Rose. What I mean by this is, once in full power and success from springing her trap and revealing everything to Chris, she sheds her casual garbs and dresses in this bizarre white suit, and although there's possible connotations to white supremacy outfits like the KKK, her whole demeanour changes in terms of her posture and the way she talks and moves. She becomes rigid, stiffened, the true narcissist, and when Chris escapes and she goes to get the gun, her general insouciance morphs into an insouciant dominance as she slowly stalks and shoots him while he flees for his life. She focuses like a Terminator, yet remains calm. Her temperament is that of a fox hunter dealing with a rather pesky vermin, rather than trying to shoot the man who has killed her family. Then, when she thinks what is the police turning up to save her, she changes her skin colour again and becomes the helpless female and mews like a baby for help. It's worth noting that the only time in the film Rose really truly drops her insouciance is when they hit the deer and the police arrive, and due to not wanting to attract attention and let the officer see Chris's licence as he is about to go missing, she projects her cunning and manipulation and loses her cool. However, at all other times, be it bedding Chris or playing daddy's little girl or even hunting Chris at the end, Rose is cool as a cucumber, nonchalant to the world, and oozes supremacy. And the only time this drops is when she's truly challenged or under pressure, like the police stop, and the facade releases just for a moment. However, even then, when challenging the policeman, she doesn't fly into a rage, rather she becomes petulant, almost as if rising through the gears of narcissistic rage, but stopping at second gear before she truly explodes. Rose is a true narcissist, and I love how Jordan Peele paints her as a snake in human form, and much like the snake from the Al Wilson song of the same name, who kills the woman who saved its life, her insouciant attitude is very much, well, I'm a snake. And you know what snakes do. You know what I was going to do when you took me in. It's truly chilling. And that's it for the structural domains and part 2 of this video essay into narcissistic personality disorder. I hope you enjoyed our dive into narcissism, and as I close the video, remember that psychology is cool. So please like, share and subscribe, and even leave a comment or a suggestion for a future video. And as ever, until next time, I'll catch you later.
And I'm the Roadrunner. Meet me.